The market on Vera Station was always crowded, full of lights, voices, and strange smells, but for Lyra it felt empty. She walked slowly between the stalls, holding her small child close to her chest. The aliens selling food and tools shouted to others, smiled to others, but when their eyes met hers, the smiles turned cold. They whispered to each other. Some even laughed. Lyra kept her head low. She had once been proud, but now she was only a single mother, abandoned after her partner died in a mining accident. Since then, no one wanted her. To the other aliens on the station, she was a burden, a problem, someone who could never work hard enough. Her child, a thin girl with big glowing eyes, tugged on her sleeve. "Mama, I'm hungry." The words cut deeper than any insult. Lyra had tried for weeks to find work. She went to the metal foundry, but the foreman there shook his head. She went to the spice traders, but they laughed and told her to go home. Even the cleaning crews refused her. No one wanted a single mother. No one wanted the risk. She stopped at a fruit stall. The smell of the bright red orbs made her child lick her lips. Lyra reached for one, but the alien behind the stall blocked her hand with a hard claw. "Payment first," he hissed. "I can work," Lyra whispered. "Please, just give me a chance. I'll clean, I'll carry, I'll do anything." The stallkeeper leaned forward so everyone nearby could hear. "No one wants you. Go away before you scare my customers." Her face burned. She pulled her child close and turned away. Around her, laughter rose like smoke. The market seemed even louder now, even brighter, but to her, everything was heavy silence. She walked past stalls of glowing fabrics, metal drones, and steaming foods, yet her steps grew slower. Her child's head rested on her shoulder, weak from hunger. At the far end of the market, near the docking bay, she stopped. She had no more places to try. The station was vast, but for her, all paths were closed. She could not leave. She had no money, no ship. She could not stay. Without food, her child would soon collapse. Her hands trembled as she sat on a cold metal bench. The crowd flowed around her like water. Aliens of many shapes passed by, none looking at her. For them, she was invisible, forgotten. Then, a different sound reached her ears. Heavy footsteps, steady and slow. She looked up. Through the crowd walked a human. Humans were rare on Vera Station. Most traveled far away, exploring or trading, but few stayed. This one was tall, broad-shouldered, with dark hair and tired eyes. He carried a box of tools in one hand, as if he had just come from work. Unlike the others, he did not avoid her. He stopped, right there in front of her bench. His eyes met hers. For a long moment, silence pressed between them. Her chest tightened. Would he mock her too? Would he tell her to move? But the human only tilted his head. "You look tired," he said in simple trade language, his voice calm. Lyra blinked. No one had spoken to her with kindness in many months. She struggled to answer, her voice small. I just need work. I can do anything. Please, no one will give me a chance." The child stirred, lifting her head to stare at the human with wide eyes. Her lips were dry, her skin pale. The human's gaze moved from mother to child. His jaw tightened slightly as if something inside him shifted. He set the heavy toolbox on the ground and crouched so his eyes were level with the little girl's. "You hungry?" he asked gently. The girl nodded. The human reached into his pocket, pulled out a small wrapped bar and offered it. The child hesitated, looking to her mother for permission. Lyra's throat tightened. She wanted to refuse. Pride told her to. But her child's hollow eyes broke her will. She nodded. The girl snatched the bar and bit into it eagerly, tears forming in her glowing eyes. Lyra whispered, Why are you helping us?" The human stood slowly, his expression unreadable. Around them, other aliens stared in surprise. A human, Stopping for her? Helping her? Whispers spread quickly. Some were sharp with disbelief, others filled with anger. The human didn't seem to care. He picked up his toolbox again and looked at her. Because everyone deserves a chance, he said simply. Come tomorrow morning to Dock 12. I need someone to help with repairs. It's hard work, but it's honest. Lyra froze. Her heart raced. Was this real? Or just another cruel joke? She searched his face but saw no mockery there. Only a quiet strength. She nodded slowly, unable to speak. The human gave her one last look, then turned and walked away, disappearing into the market crowd. Lyra held her child tighter, tears falling silently down her face. For the first time in months, a spark of hope flickered inside her chest. But in the shadows of the stalls, unfriendly eyes watched. Some aliens frowned, muttering darkly. A human offering help to a rejected alien mother? That was something many would not forgive. And so the market, still crowded, still loud, carried a new kind of tension. Lyra did not know what tomorrow would bring, but she felt it deep inside. Something had just changed. The next morning, Lyra stood in front of Dock 12. Her child clung to her hand, both nervous and tired. The wide hangar doors hummed as ships came and went, their engines glowing. Workers shouted, machines whirred, and the smell of oil and smoke filled the air. She had not slept much. All night she had wondered, was the human serious? Or had he only offered kindness in a moment? Words that would vanish by sunrise? She was afraid of more rejection, but she had no choice. The child tugged her sleeve. Mama, is he coming? Before she could answer, a deep voice came from behind. You showed up. Lyra turned quickly. The human stood there, carrying the same heavy toolbox, his clothes marked with grease. His eyes studied her for a moment, then drifted to the child. He gave a short nod as if approving their courage to come. Follow me, he said. He led them inside the hangar. A large freighter stood before them, its hull scarred and dented. Sparks flew where welders worked. The ship looked tired, like it had survived too many journeys. The human placed his tools down and looked at her directly. Name's John. She hesitated, then whispered, Lyra. He repeated her name once, as if testing it, then pointed to the ground. This ship needs repairs. I fix what others ignore. It's slow work and I can't do it alone. If you can follow instructions, I'll pay you with food and credits. Deal? Her breath caught. Food. Credits. A chance. She nodded quickly. Yes. I will do anything. John handed her a small pair of gloves. Then start by cleaning that panel, careful with the wires. Lyra rushed to the task, her child watching closely from the side. At first her hands shook, but slowly she found rhythm. She pulled out broken cables, wiped dirt, and passed tools as John requested. The hours moved faster than she expected. For the first time in months she felt useful. Her child brought her water when she grew tired. John noticed, and his lips twitched almost like a smile. She helps you, he said softly. Yes, Lyra answered, brushing dust from her face. She is all I have. John's eyes lingered on the girl, then shifted back to the engine. His voice carried a weight she could not read. Then we'll keep her strong. By the end of the day, her arms ached, her back hurt, but her heart was lighter. When John handed her a small packet of food and a few credits, she stared at them as if they were gold. Come back tomorrow, he said, already turning to his tools. Same time. She bowed her head quickly. Thank you. Thank you, John. But as she left the dock, whispers followed her again. Two aliens leaned near a stack of crates, glaring. Why would a human hire her? One muttered. She'll ruin his work, the other spat. Lyra felt their eyes like knives. She hurried away with her child, clutching the food, tight. That night. They ate slowly, savoring every bite. Her child smiled for the first time in weeks, crumbs on her lips. Lyra's chest warmed at the sight. She whispered to herself, maybe tomorrow will not be as dark, but tomorrow brought more than work. When she arrived again at Dock 12, the alien foreman of the market was waiting, blocking the entrance. His skin shimmered with angry colors, and his long claws tapped the railing. "You don't belong here," he sneered. "Single mothers are parasites. You're dragging that human down." John stepped out from behind him, wiping grease from his hands. He looked between the foreman and Lyra, his jaw hard. "She works better than most you hire," he said calmly. "The foreman hissed. "You insult your own kind by helping her." John didn't flinch. "I don't care what you think, she's staying." The crowd around them grew, workers pausing to watch. Murmurs spread. Some aliens scowled, others whispered curiously. Lyra's heart pounded. Was this the moment her fragile chance would shatter? The foreman spat on the ground. "Then her failures are on your head, human." With that, he turned and stormed away. John gave no sign of fear. He simply returned to the ship and called over his shoulder, "Get to work, Lyra. Ignore the noise." Her hands shook as she obeyed, but deep inside, something changed. For the first time, someone had stood for her. Someone had spoken when she could not. All day. She worked harder, faster, wanting to prove that John's trust was not wasted. When the child fell asleep on a crate, Lyra draped a cloth over her and kept going. Sweat ran down her face. But she didn't stop. That evening, John watched quietly as she fixed a loose pipe with steady hands. His eyes softened for a brief moment, though he said nothing. As the hangar lights dimmed, Lyra realized she was no longer invisible. The market might still reject her, the whispers might still follow, but she had a place now, a chance. Yet in the far corners of the station, anger brewed. Not everyone wanted to see a human and an alien mother working together. Some saw it as weakness, others as betrayal. And those whispers would soon grow into something much darker. The days passed, and Lyra kept returning to Dock 12. Every morning she arrived with her child's small hand in hers. Every evening she left with sore arms, but food and credits in her bag. For the first time since her partner's death, there was rhythm in her life. It was not easy, but it was life. John gave her no soft words, no false comfort. He was a man of few sentences, yet his silence carried more strength than the cruel laughter of the market. He showed her tasks, corrected her when needed, and never raised his voice. When she did well, he simply nodded, and that was enough to make her heart beat faster with pride. One night, after a long shift, Lyra sat with her child on the edge of the hangar. The girl nibbled at a small fruit while watching the freighter. "Mama," she said quietly, "will he send us away?" Lyra hugged her close. "No," she whispered, "not him." It was the first time she dared to believe her own words. But whispers still followed. In the marketplace, aliens pointed and sneered. Some muttered that she had bewitched the human. Others warned that John's business would collapse with her near. A few stared at her child with open hatred. Lyra kept her head down, but her ears heard every cruel word. One morning, as she scrubbed a metal panel, 2 security officers entered the hangar. Their armor gleamed and their steps echoed against the floor. Everyone grew silent. Even John set down his tools and straightened. The taller officer scanned the room, his cold eyes settling on Lyra. "You," he barked. "Step forward." Lyra froze, her hands trembling. Slowly she obeyed. Her child clung to her leg, frightened. "You are not authorized to work here," the officer continued. "The council has rules. Outsiders without registration cannot take paid labor. You will come with us." Lyra's throat closed. She wanted to protest, to explain that she was only cleaning, only helping, but the words would not come. Before she could speak, John stepped between her and the officers. His voice was calm but hard. "She works for me. My dock, my contract. Unless the council wants my repairs delayed, she stays." The shorter officer sneered. "You risk fine and punishment for this alien mother. Why?" "She is nothing." John's jaw tightened. "She's not nothing," he said. "She's a worker. That's enough." The officers exchanged glances, their expressions sour. After a long pause, the taller one finally spoke. "We will report this. If she causes trouble, it will fall on your head, human. With that, they turned and left. Lyra collapsed to her knees, clutching her child. She whispered, I'm sorry I caused this. John crouched beside her, his hand resting briefly on her shoulder. You didn't cause it. They're just afraid. Afraid of me? She asked, stunned. Afraid of change, he replied. His eyes met hers, steady and firm. Don't run, keep working, that's how you win. Those words stayed with her long after the officers left. That night, lying in the small corner she called home, she repeated them to herself. Don't run. Keep working. The next morning, she returned again. Her hands blistered from labor, her back sore, but she refused to give up. John never mentioned the officers again. He simply handed her tools and gave her tasks, as if nothing had happened. That quiet trust was a promise. Unspoken but stronger than words. As the days turned to weeks, Lyra's skills grew. She learned to strip wires, to tighten seals, to recognize the hum of a stable engine. Her child laughed more often now, playing with loose bolts and pretending they were treasure. One evening, as the hangar lights dimmed, John paused in his work and looked at her. You learn fast, he said. Lyra froze, surprised. Praise was rare from him. She bowed her head. I want to be worthy of the chance you gave me. John studied her for a long moment. Then he simply said, Good, don't waste it. But the peace did not last. Late that night, as Lyra walked through the narrow station corridors, she heard footsteps behind her. She turned and saw 3 figures, aliens from the market, their faces twisted with anger. You think you can steal our work? One hissed. You think hiding behind a human will save you? Her child pressed against her side, trembling. Lyra's heart pounded. She said nothing, only clutched her daughter's hand and quickened her pace. The aliens followed, their whispers sharp. We should teach her a lesson. Show her where her place is. Before they could act, heavy footsteps echoed behind them. The voices stopped. The 3 aliens looked up and saw John approaching, his eyes dark, his fists clenched. No words were exchanged. The market aliens melted back into the shadows, muttering curses. Lyra stood frozen, her child clinging to her leg. John looked at her, his face unreadable. Then he said only 2 words. Keep walking. And so they did. That night, as her child slept, Lyra sat awake, staring into the dim ceiling. She realized something deep inside her had shifted. She was no longer alone. She was no longer invisible. The human had not just given her work. He had given her something she thought was lost forever. Dignity. And in her heart, she made a silent promise. Whatever dangers came, she would not betray his trust. She would stand, as he had stood for her. The freighter in Dock 12 slowly came back to life. Every day Lyra's hands grew steadier, her skills sharper. She no longer only cleaned or carried tools. Now she tightened pipes, patched wires, and even welded small panels. Each spark that flew under her hands felt like proof she still had worth. Her child played nearby, stacking empty boxes into little towers and laughing when they fell. Sometimes John paused his work just long enough to watch the girl, his stern eyes softening for a brief moment before returning to the engines. But outside the hangar, tension was rising. The market was no longer just whispering. Alien traders muttered openly about the human's pet project. Some warned him, others mocked him, but a few carried darker intentions. The first sign came one morning when Lyra arrived to find the hangar door scratched with deep claw marks. Across the metal, an ugly word in alien script was carved. Parasite. Her heart sank. She touched the letters with trembling fingers. Her child asked softly, Mama, what does it mean? She forced a smile. It means nothing, little one, just scratches. But inside, shame burned. When John arrived, he saw the marks and studied them in silence. His jaw tightened, but he said nothing. Instead, he unlocked the hangar and began working as usual. Lyra waited for him to scold her. to tell her the trouble was not worth it. But he never did. That silence gave her strength. For a few days, things calmed. Then the real blow came. One afternoon, while John and Lyra worked on the ship's coolant system, alarms echoed across the dock. A storage crate had gone missing, one filled with expensive plasma coils. Security rushed in, demanding answers. The foreman from the market appeared, his voice sharp. "I know who's to blame. The alien woman. I saw her near the crates yesterday." Gasps spread among the workers. All eyes turned to Lyra. Her hands shook, grease staining her fingers. "No, I never touched them," the foreman sneered. "Of course you did. That's all you are, desperate and greedy. You should never have been allowed here." Her child clung to her leg, crying. "Mama didn't. Mama didn't." The security officers stepped forward. "Until this is cleared, she will be removed." From the docks, Lyra's chest tightened, her vision blurred. Everything she had built, gone. Just like that, she opened her mouth to beg, but John's voice cut through the noise. "Stop." The hangar fell silent. John walked slowly to the officers, his face hard as stone. "She didn't take it. I was with her all day. If you're accusing her, you're accusing me," the foreman spat. "Are you blind, human? She's playing you." John turned his head sharply, his gaze piercing. "If you have proof, show it. If not, shut your mouth." The foreman faltered but pressed on. "Then where are the coils?" John didn't answer with words. He walked straight to the corner of the hangar where a stack of boxes sat untouched. With a swift motion, he shoved one aside, revealing the missing crate hidden poorly behind. Gasps rose again. The officers rushed forward, scanning the crate. The coils were all there. John looked back at the foreman, his eyes cold. "You were quick to blame her. Too quick. Maybe because you're the one who wanted her gone." The foreman's colors shifted nervously. "Lies! Anyone could have— Enough!" the taller officer barked. "We'll investigate, but for now, the woman stays." The foreman's glare burned like fire as he stormed away. Lyra collapsed. To her knees, tears streaming down her face. Her child hugged her tightly. She whispered, broken, Why do you defend me?" John crouched beside her, his voice low but steady. "Because you didn't do it and because no one else will." Those words sank deep into her heart. She realized he wasn't just giving her a chance. He was standing against the whole station, for her. But that stand came at a cost. That night, as Lyra carried her sleeping child back to their small room, she felt eyes watching from the shadows. Whispers slithered through the corridors. The human protects her. The human defies us. She hugged her child tighter. She knew this was only the beginning. The market would not forgive her survival. The foreman would not forget his humiliation. And somewhere in her chest, fear and hope twisted together. Fear that tomorrow would bring worse. Hope that no matter what, John would still be there. The freighter's engines hummed softly behind them, almost like a heartbeat in the night. Lyra swore she would not run, no matter what threat came next. She would not break the silent promise she had made. The market on Vera Station buzzed louder than usual. Rumors spread like fire, how the missing coils had been found in Dock 12, how the human defended the alien mother, how the foreman was humiliated in front of security. Everyone had an opinion, and most were not kind. Some aliens spat when Lyra walked by. Others pulled their children away, whispering that she was dangerous. A few shouted insults to her face. Lyra kept her eyes down, holding her daughter's hand tighter, but every word cut like a blade. John never spoke about the incident, but his silence was heavier than ever. He worked longer hours, his movements sharp, his jaw tense. Lyra knew he was waiting for the next strike, and so was she. It came sooner than expected. One morning, John and Lyra arrived at Dock 12 to find a notice pinned to the hangar door. The letters were bold, the message cruel. "Human, you defy the council, you shelter a parasite, answer for it or lose your dock." Lyra's knees weakened. They will take your work because of me, she whispered. John tore the notice down without a word. His eyes were steel. Then we'll answer. That afternoon, a summons arrived. John was ordered before the Alien Council, the ruling body of the station. The case, his decision to employ and defend Lyra. When Lyra heard, she begged him not to go. Please, they hate me. They will punish you for my sake. John looked at her calmly. If we stay quiet, they win. If we stand, at least they'll hear the truth. She had no answer. The council chamber was vast, filled with shimmering banners and hard, watchful faces. Representatives of many species sat in a half-circle, their eyes fixed on John as he stepped forward. Lyra stood behind him, clutching her child close, her heart pounding. The head counselor, a tall alien with scales that gleamed like metal, spoke first. Human John, you stand accused of violating labor law. You have employed an unregistered alien, a single mother with no sponsor. Explain yourself. John's voice carried clear and steady across the hall. She works for me. She earns her keep. That's no crime. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Some counselors frowned, others scoffed. The foreman rose from the side, his voice sharp with venom. This woman is nothing but a thief. She brings shame to our market. He protects her because he is blinded. Remove her and peace will return. Lyra's hands shook. Her child pressed against her leg, trembling. John stepped forward, his shadow long across the chamber floor. She is no thief. She is no burden. She works harder than any I've hired. She asks for nothing but a chance to survive. You call her parasite? I call her proof that dignity can't be crushed. Gasps filled the hall. Some aliens laughed bitterly. Others fell silent. The head counselor leaned forward. You risk your your livelihood for this one alien mother. Why? John's jaw clenched, but his eyes were steady. Because if we turn away from the weak, what strength do we truly have? If a mother and child can be cast aside just for being inconvenient, then your laws mean nothing. I'd rather lose my than lose my soul. The chamber erupted. Shouts, protests, whispers. The foreman shouted louder than all. He defies the council. He dares insult our laws. The head counselor raised a hand, silencing the uproar. His eyes glittered, unreadable. The council will deliberate. Guards escorted John, Lyra, and her child out into the waiting hall. The silence there was heavy. Lyra's eyes filled with tears. Why do you fight for me so strongly? I don't deserve. John cut her off with a sharp look. Stop. You deserve a chance. Everyone does. Don't let them make you believe otherwise. Minutes dragged like hours until finally the council doors opened. The head counselor emerged, his voice echoing. The council has decided. The human may keep his The alien mother may remain under his employment. But any further disturbance, any theft or crime linked to her, will result in punishment for both. Relief and dread mixed in Lyra's chest. She was safe, for now, but their enemies had only been fueled by this decision. As they left the council hall, whispers followed them. Some voices carried anger, but a few, just a few, carried curiosity. A human standing for an alien mother? It was strange. It was dangerous. But it planted seeds of thought. Back at Dock 12, Lyra worked harder than ever. Every bolt tightened. Every wire fixed was her way of proving John's stand had not been in vain. That night, as her child slept curled against her side, Lyra whispered into the dim light, He stood for me. Now I must stand for him. But in the shadows of the station, plans were forming. Enemies humiliated before the council would not rest. And the next move they made would not be a warning carved on a wall. Days after the council's judgment, the hangar felt heavy. Workers still came and went, but their eyes lingered on Lyra longer, their whispers sharper. She felt the weight of every glance. If she stumbled, even once, the council's warning would fall like a blade on her and John both. So she worked harder. She cleaned, welded, carried, and studied every piece of machinery John placed before her. Her hands grew calloused, her back ached, but she refused to stop. Her child smiled more now, no longer thin with hunger, and that smile kept her moving. One evening, as the freighter's lights flickered weakly, John muttered under his breath, "Coolant system's shot again. We'll never get it stable." He tossed a broken coil onto the bench, frustration flashing across his face. Lyra stepped closer, studying the part. Her eyes narrowed. She recognized the design, not from work, but from long ago when she lived on her homeworld. Her late partner had been an engineer, and she used to watch him draw circuits, explaining them to her in gentle tones. Her hands reached out before she realized. She traced the coil's lines. This isn't broken," she whispered. John looked up sharply. "What?" She pointed to the wires. "The alignment is wrong. The core isn't feeding evenly. If you reverse the second circuit and reinforce with a stabilizer, it will work." John stared at her, surprised. "You know engines?" Lyra's cheeks burned. Not fully. But I watched my partner repair them, I remember." John hesitated, then pushed the coil toward her. "Show me." Her fingers trembled at first, but memory guided her. She twisted the wires, adjusted the connections, and set the coil back into place. Sparks danced, but when the system hummed alive, the glow was steady, stronger than before. The engine roared with new life. John's eyes widened. He gave a short nod, but there was something new in his gaze now. Respect. Not bad. For the first time, Lyra felt something warm bloom in her chest. Pride. From then on, John gave her more than cleaning tasks. He showed her schematics, tools, and codes. And each time, she surprised him by learning quickly. She remembered details her partner had once spoken, filling gaps with instinct. Soon, she was no longer just an extra pair of hands. She was a partner in repairs. Her child watched proudly, telling anyone who would listen, "My mama fixes ships." But the more useful she became, the more dangerous things grew. Word spread quickly across the station. The alien mother was not only working, she was skilled. Traders began to whisper about John's dock, saying his repairs were faster now, cheaper, more reliable. Some even chose his hangar over the foreman's. That was when the threats grew sharper. One night, as Lyra left with her child, she found a small device hidden near her door. A bomb, primitive but deadly. Her heart stopped. She froze, clutching her daughter close until John arrived and crushed the device with a boot, disarming it. "They won't stop," he muttered darkly. "The more value you show, the more they'll fear you." Lyra's hands shook. "Then maybe I should leave, before they destroy everything." John's eyes burned with quiet fire. "No. You stay. You belong here. They're afraid because they see what you are. Stronger than their lies." Tears stung her eyes. No one had ever spoken of her like that. The next day, she proved him right again. The freighter's navigation system crashed just before a test run. John cursed under his breath, saying it would take days to fix. But Lyra leaned over the console, scanning the alien script. To his shock, she began translating the codes. "How do you know this language?" he asked. Her voice trembled but stayed steady. "It was my people's. I never thought it useful, until now." Within hours, she reset the system, realigned the circuits, and rebooted the core. The freighter lifted from the dock with smooth grace, hovering steady above the floor. Workers nearby gasped. Even the council's officers who came to inspect left in silence, impressed. But not everyone was silent. The foreman's fury grew louder. He stormed through the market, shouting that the human and the alien mother were stealing all trade. His followers spread rumors, accusing Lyra of witchcraft, of using human pity to gain power. The whispers twisted darker. Some said she planned to replace human workers. Others claimed she was plotting with smugglers. Lies grew like weeds. That night, as Lyra watched her child sleep peacefully for the first time in years, she placed a hand on her chest. Her heart pounded with fear and determination. She knew she could not undo the anger building outside the hangar, but she also knew something else now. She was not helpless. She had skills, knowledge, and worth. And if they came for her again, she would not face them as the desperate mother in the market. She would face them as someone who could build, repair, and fight for her place. John had given her a chance. She had given him her promise. And together, they had created something the whole station could no longer ignore. But in the shadows of Vera Station, their enemies were planning one last strike. And this time, they would not stop at threats. The freighter was finally ready. Its engines purred steady, its navigation system gleamed with new lights, and every panel shone under Lyra's hands. Dock 12 smelled of metal and ozone, the smell of a ship ready to fly again. But the air outside the hangar was not filled with pride. It was filled with danger. The rumors had turned into fire. The foreman and his allies spread word that the humans, had broken laws, that the alien mother was stealing jobs, that her child was a curse. And when lies are repeated too long, they turn into weapons. That night, as the hangar doors closed, shadows gathered. Dozens of figures, traders, workers, and hired thugs, marched toward Dock 12. Their voices rose in chants sharp and hateful. Parasite! Parasite! Lyra froze inside the hangar, her child pressed against her leg. Her stomach knotted. They've come for us, she whispered. John stood firm, his shoulders broad, his jaw like stone. He looked at her once. Stay. Behind me. The mob banged on the doors until they shook. Sparks of anger lit their eyes when the metal opened and John stepped out alone. What do you want? His voice boomed. The foreman pushed forward, his colors glowing with rage. We want the alien gone. She doesn't belong. She poisons our market. Give her up, or we burn your dock. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the mob. Some carried torches. Others held crude weapons. Lyra's knees weakened. She wanted to hide, to run, but her child's hand gripped hers tightly, trembling. She remembered John's words. Don't run. Keep working. John's voice rang like iron. You call her parasite, but she saved this ship. You call her a thief, but she rebuilt what you broke. You want to burn my dock, then burn me first because she stays. The crowd roared. The foreman raised his claw. Then so be it. The mob surged forward, until a sound stopped them. A deep hum filled the air. The freighter's engines roared to life, brighter and steadier than ever before. The hangar doors slid wide, and there stood Lyra, her child by her side, her hands still glowing from the control panel she had activated. The freighter hovered above the ground, steady and strong, like a beast ready to leap. Its shadow fell across. The mob. Gasps filled the air. Even the boldest among them stepped back. Lyra's voice, trembling but clear, carried across the dock. You say I do not belong. You say I have no worth. But this ship flies because of me. My hands, my work, my promise. Her child's small voice echoed, innocent but fierce. My mama fixed it. The crowd wavered. Some lowered their weapons. Others glanced nervously at each other. John stepped forward, his presence like a wall. You can hate her all you want, but you cannot erase what she has done. You need ships, you need repairs. And no matter how much you spit on her, you cannot deny her skill. For a long moment silence pressed heavy. Then slowly a few aliens in the back lowered their torches. Others muttered, uncertain. The mob was breaking, not from force but from truth. The foreman's face twisted with fury. This isn't over, he hissed. But even his followers began to step away. One by one the crowd melted into the shadows, their voices fading. The dock grew quiet again, save for the steady hum of the freighter. Lyra's legs gave out and she fell to her knees, tears streaming down her face. She held her child close, heart pounding. John approached, his hand resting firmly on her shoulder. You did it, he said softly. No, she whispered, looking up at him. We did it. For the first time, John allowed a small smile to break through his stern face. The next morning, the market was different. Whispers still followed her, but they were no longer filled only with hate. Some were curious, even respectful. A few traders came quietly to Dock 12 asking if she could repair their ships too. She worked beside John, her child laughing nearby, the freighter gleaming above them. The station that once wanted her gone now needed her hands. And, deep inside, Lyra felt something she thought she had lost forever: belonging. The days of hunger and humiliation were not erased, but they no longer defined her. She was more than a single mother, more than a burden. She was proof that even in the cold emptiness of space, hope could survive. John had given her a chance. She had kept her silent promise. And together, they had carved a new dawn.